may remember this story, the takedown of a homeless man accused of stealing a soda from a downtown Marriott hotel in 2023.
Now, the officer who you see in this video, his name is Jay Moss. He retired before the investigation was ever finished, and his supervisor, Lieutenant Caleb Stewart, was accused of mishandling the use of force investigation.
Wave News troubleshooter Alina Noakes finds that Stewart is now appealing the Merit Board's conclusion that he violated policy.
It's nearly a year after the Merit Board concluded the violated policy. Lieutenant Caleb Stewart is asking a judge to review the case. Stewart argues it was based on legal errors, an incomplete record, and procedural irregularities. Among those, witness tampering by Chief Paul Humphrey. LMPD Lieutenant Caleb Stewart was the supervisor over now retired Officer Jay Moss when this happened in 2023. Moss was recorded on the Marriott Hotel security camera grabbing a homeless man by the throat before taking him to the ground. The man accused of stealing a soda from the hotel. In 2024, then Chief Jacqueline Gwen Villaruel suspended Stewart for 20 days without pay for his handling of this case, which Stewart appealed to the Merit Board and lost. The findings that Stewart didn't investigate Moss for excessive force. Stewart's attorney, Todd Lewis, argues he did investigate. The board just didn't agree with his conclusions.
It cannot be precisely how would I have addressed that situation, and let me talk about how I would differ with how that lieutenant did. Instead, it should be, was the lieutenant's response within the latitude of reasonableness that anyone might reach as a manager?
But it's Villaruel's testimony at the hearing and the alleged actions of the current police chief that has Stewart asking a judge to reverse the board's decision. Stewart's petition says the former chief testified as a part of an executive committee, an alleged group of LMPD leadership for which there were no minutes or proof of membership.
Lieutenant Stewart clearly did not report the unlawful excessive force utilized in this particular incident.
Stewart claims the testimony was designed to unfairly sway the board. He also accuses the Office of Inspector General of doing the same through off-the-record conversations with the board without Stewart or his attorney present. And then Stewart accuses Chief Humphrey and the department of witness tampering. Major Shannon Lauder, Stewart's superior at the time of the incident, had been under investigation for sexual harassment at a 2020 pool party involving another officer alongside her husband, Lieutenant Jeff Lauder. The investigation remained open for months until May 2025, just as Stewart's own board hearings were starting up. That's when Lewis says the pool party complaint was sustained and presented to the board during Lauder's testimony, painting her as untruthful.
If it didn't happen on purpose, then for God's sake, do we not have enough advisors available for the police chief that they could have advised him to step back from it?
Lewis says this is just one example of what he calls a recent pattern within the department leadership, a claim he says will develop as the case moves forward. Now, LMPD tells me Chief Humphrey stands behind the findings, which were upheld by the Merit Board, and that Stewart has a right to due process, and they will represent the outcome of that process. Alina Noakes, Wave News.